Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
They are dubbing Trump Care, despite the obviously negative nationwide implications of Obamacare. Also, a top cardinal in the Catholic Church has been implicated in pedophilia, another devastating blow to the Catholic Church. Meanwhile, the globalists are coming for control of the internet. They want to legislate it into their control. Roger Stone discusses the threat of this and what it means to you. And then, Omar Navarro joins the Nightly News to discuss the latest developments in his campaign to drain the swamp of Mad Maxine Waters.
You know, I'm here because politicians that are here underserving their communities. I see trash all over this community. Do you like that? Do you like the trash that's here?
All that and more tonight on the Infowars Nightly News.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. The key is to be aware of this attack and to fight back against it. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs harvested around the planet and then concentrated for maximum potency. I've always believed in nutrition and herbs. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by Infowars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. Visit InfowarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality and other powerful products from Infowars Life.
Check out these amazing deals at InfowarsStore.com. 25% off BioTrue Selenium, a powerful antioxidant and back in stock Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste. Now 33% off. And while you're there, check out the Total Oral Care Pack, which combines our organic mouthwash with the amazing Super Blue toothpaste. Now 37% off. All available right now at InfowarsStore.com.
The stakes are very high when we look at reform and repeal of Obamacare. We have Steve Bannon understands it. He says if we deliver on our promises, we will control this for the next generation. Elizabeth Warren also understands it. She understands that if we fail, we are going to have a massive progressive surge. And of course, she's betting on the fact that Obamacare is going to fail. And if we settle for something that is less than the real free market reforms that Donald Trump campaigned on, then we are going to have a failure. It's not going to be enough to just rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic, declare victory, and move on to the next item. It has to be real substantive change. It's going to give us freedom of choice. It's going to give us liberty. It's going to give us markets in healthcare that we haven't had for a very long time since the federal government got involved in third-party insurance back in the during World War II. So this is something that is very important. House conservatives are now urging the Senate to keep market reforms that would actually lower premiums. Remember when we called this affordable care? Remember when that was the metric that we could make health care or even health insurance affordable? That's no longer the issue anymore. Now the issue is how many people did we steal money from Fannie and Freddie for so that we could give them subsidized insurance? That's the new metric. It's not affordability anymore. The only way we're going to get affordability is to stop taxing it in massive amounts, to stop subsidizing it, stealing from one group and giving to the other, and to put in some real market-based reforms. And so we have the House Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows, is telling people that, hey, the Senate needs to keep in some real basic reforms, or actually to put them in. They're not in the original bill that McConnell put out there. We had Ted Cruz put in an amendment that would allow insurers to sell plans that don't comply with Obamacare requirements. So you don't even have a choice as to what insurance you want to buy. And that's one of the key problems with this. We don't have information. We don't have choice. We don't have the ability to purchase this when we see that our insurance premiums are going up by doubling or tripling as these mandates are put in there. And so that's the key thing. We have to have something that's going to allow us to have choice. That is not in there right now. And of course, this is an amendment by Ted Cruz. They're saying, you need to keep that in. They also said we need to have allow people to use health savings accounts to pay for premiums. Wouldn't that be great? If instead of taxing medical devices, what if we were to allow people to take tax deductions or credits off of their income taxes? But of course, the government doesn't really believe that health care is important. If they did, they would allow you to pay for it with your money before you send it into them as taxes. And they wouldn't tax medical devices and so many other things. We have a massive amount of medical taxes that were put on by Obama, saying that it's going to make it more affordable. No, it doesn't make it more affordable. Meanwhile, we have Maxine Waters pushing the panic button, saying 700 billion people will lose coverage with Obamacare reform. Now, to put this in perspective, the world population, according to everybody except Maxine Waters, is estimated to be about 7 billion. So she's saying that 100 times more than the entire world's population is going to lose their insurance. The Congressional Budget Office is estimating it at 22 million. But again, if we focus on how many people have insurance that they can't afford, then that is the wrong metric. The metric needs to be, how do we make this affordable? And to do that, you have to release market forces, and you have to give us the ability to have free choices. That's the real issue here. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren is sensing blood in the water. She said the next step is single-payer health care. Let's understand what this is. This is government-controlled health care, just like they have in Great Britain. And we all understand how well that works, with people queued up for service and so forth. And we don't have any competition. There's no mechanism to lower health care. There's no incentive for people to make better quality health care once the government comes in with a dictatorial system. But that's what she thinks she can now move to. And it's very true what she had to say here. She said, President Obama came up with health care coverage using a conservative model that came from one of the conservative think tanks that had been advanced by a Republican governor in Massachusetts. That would have been Mitt Romney. We said all along that Romney Care, and it was true, Romney Care was exactly the same as Obamacare. And the powers that be had decided in 2012 that you were going to get this Obamacare government-controlled health insurance that was designed to fail, so the next step could be single payer. They gave you a choice. Do you want a young black guy or do you want an old white guy? But either way, you're going to get health care mandates. That was the issue. She said, now is the time for the next step, and the next step is single payer. She sees this coming. She knows it is not sustainable, and we know that it's not sustainable too. That's why if they do a window dressing head fake on this and declare, hey, we won because we got something passed, that's what we're going to wind up with. Even Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi were pushing back against single-payer health care. That was what Hillary Clinton, as First Lady, tried to shove down our throats right after Bill Clinton got elected. And they said, well, we went too quickly, we pushed too far on this. So they have been downplaying this, but make no mistake about it, that has been and still is the ultimate goal. And as we look at this, we know where this is going to go. There's an article that came out today, Gallup, talking about how Americans support significant cuts to taxes on the middle class. 61% of Americans want to see the tax cuts, significant tax cuts to the middle class. They support eliminating tax deductions and loopholes for the very rich. 63% favor that to just 17% oppose. They support simplifying the federal tax code, reducing the complexity and the number of brackets from 7 tax brackets to 4. 47% agreed with that, only 12% disagreeing. They want to eliminate the estate tax by a large margin. And, of course, the 61% who want to get rid of or have a massive reduction in income taxes. And they are going to be pushing for this as well once they see their tax bill coming up. The Congressional Budget Office has said that income taxes next year are going to go up by 9.5% unless things are changed. But guess what? The deficit is still going to soar by $1 trillion, by 5%. So even though income taxes will go up by 9.5%, the deficit will still go up by another 5%. It's the spending, stupid. Remember when the Clintons ran for president? When Bill Clinton said it's the economy, stupid, we're going to focus on the economy. The problem with the economy is out of control entitlement spending. And things like a single-payer health care system are going to take us down the same road as Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and now Illinois. Pat Buchanan pointed out yesterday, he said Illinois has $14.5 billion in overdue bills, $130 billion in unfunded pension obligations, and actually most of the people that I've seen reporting on this say that it's even higher than that. And, of course, they have no budget. The comptroller said, we can't manage our money. It's like a banana republic. Also, then you have Puerto Rico with $74 billion owed to creditors and $40 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. And so what did they do? Well, they did what everybody else does. Just pass the buck on to Uncle Sam. That's what Puerto Rico wanted to do. They had a plebiscite. Only 23% of the people showed up to vote. But of those who showed up, 97% said, we want to become an American state. We want to be the 51st state so that the government will bail us out. And they started talking about their legitimate right to self-determination. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about making themselves a burden to the rest of America because they're not following up on their bills. The legitimate right of self-determination would be if they wanted to secede and to determine for themselves what their government, what their lives are going to be. But no, they want to make themselves our permanent dependents is really what they are doing. And we should understand what's going on with this. Also, Connecticut, the next one in the line, as Pat Buchanan points out, a state that has long been in the top tier in per capita income and wealth. Now they have more people leaving Connecticut than moving in. Why? Because of Democrat tax policies. You cannot continue, as he points out, and we've seen this over and over again, the old New Deal formula, tax and tax, spend and spend, elect and elect. Giving the people largesse from the budget until you bankrupt the economy. That is what's happened in Venezuela. It's socialism. It's progressiveness. It's what's happened in Puerto Rico. It is what's happening in Illinois. We've already seen it happen in Michigan as well. You cannot continue down this road of progressive socialism and continue to have a viable economy. And this is what's happening next year with soaring tax revenue, yet soaring deficits continuing to go up. That's a 5% increase. They're talking now next year about having a $21 trillion deficit. So that is where we see this continuing. Sorry, that's the debt, the cumulative debt. They're talking about that going up year after year by a massive amount. That's why they have to keep raising the debt ceiling. Today, the travel ban went into place. And as Pat Buchanan was talking about, part of the issue with this is the demographic surge and the fact that we have people coming in massive numbers on to expand this entitlement state. A good example of this in Europe is Frankfurt. Now the first German city where native Germans are the minority. For the first time, more than half of Frankfurt residents have a migrant background. 51.2% of the people living in Frankfurt. 13% of the population of the city are Turks. And this is an interesting side note here. One of the individuals who is looking at the demographics is very excited about the fact that the new people coming in, the women of foreign origin, have a very high rate of single motherhood. They think that's a good thing because they said that it's higher, in fact, than it is for the native Germans. They said this is a possible sign that female migrants are emancipating themselves. It is not a good sign, folks, because when we have broken families, when we have single-parent families, what that does is that increases dependency on government, increases poverty. It ultimately increases violence. But they see this as a good sign. These are the people who are crafting our political policy, our demographic policy, saying broken families, single mothers are a great thing. It's something that a lot of people have to deal with, but should not be our goal. It's far more difficult to parent with just one parent, as anybody who's tried that knows. They say a book published last year predicted that native Germans would soon be reduced to minority in not only Frankfurt, but also Augsburg and Stuttgart, joining other minority cities in Europe like Amsterdam, London. We know how that has turned out. That's why we have Mayor Sadiq Khan in London. It is now a minority city. Brussels, where we see also a great deal of terror attacks, and Geneva. And they point out that 2/3 of young people in many Western European major cities are of foreign origin. So that brings us to Trump's travel ban. We have to get control of our borders. And if we can't control our borders in terms of people who are coming in that from countries that have been judged to be so dangerous that Barack Obama dropped bombs on them, how do we ever get control of our borders? These restrictions went into effect just as we began the news at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Central here. And they're going to limit this. They're going to allow people to come in if they have a bona fide connection in the U.S. That would be defined as certain close family members of people who are already in the U.S., they would be exempt from the ban on entry, and that would include spouses, children, and siblings. However, extended family like grandparents, aunts, and uncles would not be extended in that. And the cities, or rather the countries that are involved in that, it's a 90-day ban on Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, places where there are massive wars underway, places where we have been involved in fomenting most of those wars as well. It also suspends all refugee admissions for 120 days. But of course, it is going to allow consulates at the State Departments to have significant discretion as to who they're going to allow in. And remember, it was just Monday that we talked to Michael Springman, who wrote a book called Visas for Al-Qaeda. And he talked about how, as a State Department employee in Saudi Arabia's capital, Jeddah, that he saw a lot of individuals that should not have been allowed into the country. They would first say, well, of course, that's your decision, but we would strongly suggest that you allow that. Then they would come in and say, you're going to be dismissed unless you allow that, because it was coming from, he learned eventually, the CIA. They wanted Al-Qaeda to get in. So don't worry. They'll still get the terrorists in, even though we have this policy. But the way this is being spun by outlets like The Guardian, an article here, in Trump's America, immigrant families would be kept apart. And he just doesn't care. Isn't that heartless? Understand, there is no right to immigration in the United States. And as I say here, unless you already got a visa, you may need a close relative in order to enter the land of the free and the home of the brave. Grandparents don't count, neither do fiancés. But see, they're not splitting up families. This policy is not splitting up families. The foreign citizens who are here by permission, presumably, and not illegally, but the foreign citizens who are here, that even they cannot bring their grandparents in. But if they want to reunite with their grandparents, nobody is stopping them from going back to their home country and joining their family, except perhaps maybe the fact that we have bombs being dropped on their countries. And so the question is, why don't they push for that policy to stop? Many of us would like to see the chaos that has been unleashed in the Middle East by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, like in Libya and in Syria and elsewhere. We would like to see that chaos stopped. And yet you don't see anybody complaining about this travel ban, saying we need to stop the wars, we need to stop the regime change that is setting the Middle East on fire. That is the hypocrisy. And if they don't care about that, you don't need to care about their phony cries about families being kept apart. It's just crocodile tears. Meanwhile, we have some good news today. I'll mention this in just the brief time we have. Conservatives are rejoicing, reports Liberty Headlines, as Trump ends Obama's land and water grab. And remember, this was the idea that the EPA floated, that all water in the United States, not just navigable waters, but all water like ponds on your own property, could be controlled by the EPA. Remember, they levied tens of thousands of dollars of fines per day against one individual and then tried to garnish his wages. That's being reined in by the Trump administration. That's a very good sign. Now, stay with us when we come back. We're going to talk about the third highest member of the Catholic Church being charged with multiple counts by multiple people of pedophilia. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We've taken thousands of years of known research and put it together with our own 4 years of seeking and testing to find the very best systems that God gave us through Mother Nature to detoxify the body. That's why I'm introducing Z-Shield, Toxic Metal and Chemical Defense Support. It's made in the USA. It's filled with known compounds from nature that are absolutely associated with detoxifying the body, and it supports the Infowar. It is a classical 360 win. Our formula at InfoWarsLife.com is, quite frankly, simple. We go out and look at the recognized research, and we take it to the next level of quality, of purity, and of strength. Because this is what I personally use for myself and my family. We've gone through 5 or 6 different permutations in the last 4 years since we launched Infowars Life to actually come up with this. This is the formula that I personally have been taking for over a year, and now we believe we have come as close to perfection when it comes to a detoxifier as you can possibly get. If you're not mitigating the pesticides, the heavy metals, the chemicals, if you're not trying to purify your water, if you're not trying to take products like Z-Shield that are full of known concentrated compounds that'll purify our cells and our bodies, you're crazy. You owe it to yourself, You owe it to your family, and you owe it to the future of this country and the world that patriots stay as healthy and as clean and as focused as you can be, because we need you, the remnant of America, to reignite those brush fires to the next level and to be healthy and as focused as you can be. Because if you're sick, if you're over there on the sidelines and not in the fight, you're basically giving in to the New World Order. Thanks to your support and your prayers, together, we're changing the world. Now it's time to change our bodies with Z-Shield at InfoWarsLife.com.
I want to tell you about some of the products at InfoWarsStore.com. We are under constant attack. You know it by now from the mainstream media. They're trying to attack us on every level. Now with the YouTube scandal, they're demonetizing our channels, which again takes a huge chunk out of our income, which is why we always appreciate and rely on you getting the products, because that's how we stay afloat. They can't pressure you to not buy the products. They don't have that power. And that's why you're the key to this entire operation. We have Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, bubblegum flavor, just arrived at InfoWarsStore.com. This is by listener request. Bubblegum flavored Super Blue toothpaste now available at InfoWarsStore.com in limited supply. Again, if you're not using fluoride-free toothpaste by now, then you're absolutely insane. Harvard studies, it reduces IQ, it causes bone cancer. It's not great, let's just put it that way. And I've been using it for about, 15 years now? So you're going to buy it anyway. Why not buy it from us? It's in limited supply, but it is available at InfoWarsStore.com with the new bubblegum flavor. Super Blue fluoride-free toothpaste, and it supports this network, which is under constant demonization and attack, because we don't take big fat checks from George Soros. We don't get put on extremist lists, even though they want us to. That's how they're taking away the YouTube money. That's why we need your support more than ever, because we're not funded by giant corporations who are now pulling the plug on YouTube as they move it into a TV thing, a Netflix model, to drown out independent voices. So support us by getting the products at InfoWarsStore.com.
Today, the highest-ranking Catholic in Australia, the third highest-ranking Catholic in the world, the treasurer of the Vatican, Cardinal Pell, has been charged with multiple counts with multiple people of committing sexual abuse of children. Now, he has not been forced to resign by the Pope, but he's been given a leave of absence. The Pope says he supports his innocence, wants to wait for the trial to happen. His case has been under investigation since last October, where they've personally been investigating his incidents. There is an Australian Royal Commission that has been operating for quite some time. They've been looking at institutional pedophilia, specifically within the Catholic Church. In February, they said that 7% of Catholic priests were accused of abusing children sexually in Australia between 1950 and 2010. That's a 60-year period. But they said the allegations were never investigated. Furthermore, they said in some dioceses, some 15% of the priests were perpetrators of pedophilia. They said over 4,000 alleged incidents were reported to church authorities. Nothing was done about it. But this is a case of where alleging that the cardinal was personally involved in this. Now remember, 4 years ago, when Francis became Pope, he estimated 2%, not 7%, not 15%, but 2% of the priests worldwide were pedophiles. That would have been at the time about 8,000. He promised that he would have zero tolerance to it, but he's really done nothing. He's created a papal commission on sexual abuse by priests. 2 people have resigned or been forced to leave. One of those persons was Marie Collins. She's an Irish abuse survivor herself. She recently stepped down because she didn't think it was being taken seriously by the church. She said, Francis should never have appointed Pell, given his failure to address abuses carried out by priests under his charge. She said, it's been proved that he is guilty of the appalling mishandling of cases of abuse when still in place in Australia. And he caused untold pain to the victims in those cases. But now it's not just his institutional acceptance. It's his cover for these other pedophile priests. It's charges of him personally abusing children. Now, I want to play for you an interview that I did back in September of 2015 when Francis came to the United States. And at the time, he was pushing world government, the globalist agenda. He was pushing things like open borders, wealth redistribution, and climate change for the purpose of having carbon taxes and controlling our economies. He was using his position as Pope as a beard, and so we began talking about that. But I also interviewed some survivors of child abuse by priests. They have an organization called SNAP, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. And the total hypocrisy of this was that in Philadelphia, he had called a world meeting of families, even though at that time the man had done nothing to stop pedophile abuse within the Catholic Church. And so I talked to these survivors, and we had that as part of this flashback. Let's go to that flashback. Sell climate change as a facade for global government. They haven't been able to do that on a scientific and political basis. People see through the fraud. Even people who believe that there's man-made global warming see through the fraud of cap and trade, of carbon taxes, the indulgences that we're supposed to pay that are going to save the planet. Even if you believe that we have man-made global warming that is caused by CO2, and again, we've talked about that before. I'm not even going to cover that now. Even if you see that, you understand that what's being proposed is cap and trade, really is cap and tax. You have to understand that's not going to solve the problem. And you have to understand the Pope came here to put a moral face on that. And I have to say, if he's going to try to put a moral face on it when he has rejected the traditional concerns of the Catholic Church in terms of traditional marriage, in terms of abortion, his silence on that, his tolerance of all of those things, and his tolerance of abuse within the church. When he became Pope 2.5 years ago, he said that he told the largest Italian newspaper in terms of circulation, La Repubblica, he said that in his estimate, there were 2% of the priests were child abusers. That would be about 8,000 priests. Has he done anything to get rid of these priests? No, not a single one. And you have to understand that when someone is a pedophile, they don't just do it once and stop. It continues on. I want you to hear the story of one of the ladies that we talked to that is actively involved now in an organization called SNAP, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests. This is her story about sexual abuse, and I want you to see this and understand how the corruption has been institutionalized. Here's what she had to say.
To SNAP because I was abused as a child from the ages of 9 to 11 by a priest in Alexandria, Virginia, who was a newly ordained priest. And he came to our house and he kind of adopted our family. You know, he ate dinner with us. He went on vacation with us. He became like a member of the family, and I loved him. And I adored him. And he used that to start abusing me. And I didn't tell anyone until the age of 48 because he told me I'd go to hell, and also because I was raised Catholic. And the nuns had told me that he was sent by God. And so I thought he was sent by God to punish me and that I was a bad person. And so I decided to go to the church. And I thought, they're gonna help me. They're gonna be compassionate. They're gonna make me feel better. And so I went to the church, and the first priest I spoke to, I cried for over an hour telling him my story. And I told him that I felt like I was going to hell, and that I didn't think God loved me anymore, and that this was my fault, and I was a bad person. And at the end of that meeting, I didn't get any reassurances from him. And I felt so abandoned that I pulled away from the church, and I also pulled away from God. And at that point, I didn't know what to do.
Grooming is what a predator often does, not only with a child, but
Let's
with
cut
the
that
family.
short. Now, they were both saying there were pictures of themselves at the time that they were abused. And I want to cut that definition. That's very important that you understand what grooming is. But I want you to hear what they had to say about changing the statute of limitations, because that's one of the things that they were most concerned about. Is there's a very short statute of limitations. Most people who are abused as children don't come out about that until they're in their mid to late 40s. And there was a hearing in Virginia, and the only person to show up and speak against changing the statute of limitations was the Catholic Archbishop. Here's what they had to say about that.
Bishop Finn, who was convicted of endangering children in Kansas City, and he couldn't even teach CCD in his own diocese, but yet for 2 years he remained the bishop. And when he did resign, it was quietly. No one said he resigned because he endangered children. He got to keep his title, his honors, so that doesn't act as a deterrent to any other bishop. You know, you abuse, it's okay. You can go ahead and keep your honors and so forth. And you know, what kind of answer is that for protecting children?
Archbishop, during the last grand jury investigation, and there have been 2 here in Philadelphia, Justin Regali, when the grand jury report was handed down, I believe there were 37 predators still in ministry. And through the grand jury and the trials of Monsignor Lynn, who was convicted of knowingly moving child predators and endangering children, and he is in prison for that part he played. But Cardinal Regali quietly resigned. He's living a life completely, he hasn't lost his title, hasn't lost his paycheck. And this weekend, we've noticed him in the front pew here at all the festivities. He's being honored, and yet he left in disgrace. So to us, the message is, if you protect the predators, if you keep the church's secret, if you keep the lid on the scandal, you'll be rewarded, not you'll be held accountable. So how do you take the Pope's words of children are important, the families are everything, and then square that with, well, if you protect the predators who are raping the kids, it's okay. I think the number is less than 2% of pedophiles are convicted. And it's because of the statute of limitations. And the government's research says anyone who's sexually abused as a child doesn't come forward till they're in their mid to late 40s. So for in most states, then they are beyond the statute of limitations, and the predator is free to go on and abuse again. Justice needs to put in incentives out there for
Let's hold it right there. You can see the rest of that report. I'm going to repost that on my YouTube channel, David Knight Infowars. Also link to it from my Twitter account, Libertarian. It'll be called Flashback. Francis tolerates pedophile priests. And as you heard her say there, the key thing is a statute of limitations. In Australia, until 2015, there was a statute of limitations of only 2 years. Now they have removed that completely. That's what needs to be done in America. As we said yesterday, Dennis Hastert, who abused a lot of children, became Speaker of the House. They couldn't get him for the child abuse. Instead, they invented charges against him that shouldn't have been crimes at all, financial crimes, because they couldn't get him for the real crimes because there was a statute of limitations against pedophilia. There should be no.
Electrify your day with Secret 12. It's like lightning in a bottle. We all have days in which we just can't seem to perform at the level we'd like to. Infowars Life Secret 12 is designed to naturally energize your body and mind with 2 great tasting and super high quality forms of vitamin B12. Proper vitamin and nutrient intake is essential to keep your body functioning at optimum levels. The reality is, it's hard to take in the proper amount of vitamins we need each day with our modern diets. Secret 12 by Infowars Life is an easy way to naturally upgrade your vitamin B12 intake and support your body's natural systems. It pairs 2 forms of vitamin B12 into one explosive formula. Vitamin B12 supports healthy energy levels through red blood cell formation and aiding in the body's natural processes, but it also assists with many other functions of the body. Electrify your mind and body and take your health to the next level. Experience the power of Secret 12 at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Visit InfoWarsLife.com to secure your canister. We have worked for years with our chemists and scientists to create the most powerful and affordable, great-tasting multivitamin formula available. Vitamin Mineral Fusion Drink Mix at InfoWarsLife.com is loaded with a full month's supply of essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that your body absolutely needs. In the history of InfoWars Life, we've brought out a lot of amazing products like Survival Shield X2, Super Male Vitality, and so many others. With its unique delivery system and proprietary manufacturing process designed for maximized effects, this formula is the platinum standard of multivitamin mineral products. And this part is most important. The ingredients in Vitamin Mineral Fusion are either plant-derived or of the highest quality lab standard. That means it's clean. That means it's pure. And rest assured, you're fighting the tip of the spear in the info war. That's InfoWarsLife.com and Vitamin Mineral Fusion. Take action now before we sell out. We have the new product at InfoWarsLife.com, BioTrue Selenium.
We've had so many requests over the years for selenium, and just recently, we were able to source a certified organic, bioavailable selenium from mustard seed extract. When you take selenium in the body, it actually benefits the detoxification systems in your body. It helps balance the thyroid gland. It helps detoxify.
Selenium is another one of those absolute must-haves.
The highest concentration of selenium is in the thyroid gland, but it's actually used all over the body. As a matter of fact, there's 25 genes in the body that are directly dependent upon selenium. So it really is a all-around nutrient that everybody really needs.
I'm taking it now every day. This is so key. BioTrue Selenium is the product, the best selenium that we could bring you. We believe it's the best out there at a very, very low price. Exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. We're selling a product, DNA Force, that is the very best nutraceutical that we can produce. Dr. Group, you took years for you to develop DNA Force for us.
It's been something that I've been working on for a long time, Alex, because I think it's very, very important. What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying.
We chose the PQQ because it has over 175 different clinical trials. It's one of the most effective substances in the world. It works like an antioxidant. It works to repair nerve growth factor.
So this is a formula to deliver the maximum amount. It's in powder form.
We have so many 5-star reviews. I take this. This is the product that I take.
InfoWarsLife.com, and the profit we make, we fight the globals. We fight the New World Order. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
With your hate and your racism, all the jobs with the illegal immigrants, you have destroyed the black community. You are a black racist. You hate black. All the jobs went to illegal. You gave our jobs to illegal. We want you out. You're paid with taxpayers' money, and you're giving jobs to illegal.
That is Chanel Temple, somebody who lives in Maxine Waters' district, who is sick of Maxine Waters and her policies destroying her community for decades. And now it's come to a point where we have senators, congressmen, mayors, people in our government that are putting non-citizens, non-Americans over the concerns of American citizens. And that's what Chanel Temple is sick of. That's what Omar Navarro is sick of. And that's why now we bring in Omar Navarro, who is running against Maxine Waters to help us drain the swamp. Now, Omar, there's been a lot of activity going on lately regarding your running against Maxine Waters. I think that you've really shook the establishment, and they've kind of panicked, and we've seen them show their hands. Now, you were recently out at Cudahy when they were addressing sanctuary cities and funding for non-citizens. You gave a speech there, and you were not welcomed by what I thought was the community, but then you informed me it was not actually even people who live in the community.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that happened over there in Cudahy. You know, last time I showed up over there, they tried chasing me out of the whole place. They ran after me, and there's videos on YouTube you can look up. It was bad. I mean, these people are fascists. They're communists. They don't believe in free speech. They want to go after you. They want to censor you anytime they see pleasing to them. But they don't respect other people's opinions. That's why, you know, I'm there because I'm there to fight against people like this. I want to make sure that we're fighting for freedom of speech. What they did was unacceptable, going after us. It was unacceptable kicking our car last time. It was unacceptable them chasing us out the other time. I left early. I tried walking out early after I spoke, as you see there right now in that video. I talked, and after I said to the guy, we should get out of here. They're not going to respect us. We should be careful. We should play it safe and leave right away. And that's what we did. But what happened was we were leaving. They started chasing after us, trying to go after us, trying to get, basically have this whole physical confrontation. We weren't having it. You know, I was saying to myself, we got to get out of here. We got out. We got in our car. We left. But we have to play it safe. But you know, some people that were around there, the case wasn't so.
Well, it was incredible. When I was first seeing this story, I was thinking, okay, I guess these are locals here from Cudahy. that are upset because I guess Omar's policies are maybe a threat to their welfare state or a threat to their non-citizen status or whatever the case may be. But then I find out that these are actually agitators that are brought in and not even from the community. You're just there giving a speech, talking about your concerns. You feel threatened. You've already had members that have been considered part of your security detail stabbed, like Tony Foreman. So I can understand why you got out of there quickly. Of course, you didn't get the police escort that you asked for in that video. You can actually see that if you want to see that on Omar Navarro's Twitter. But it's amazing because then I see this and I know that you got out of there before all this went down. But one of the anti-sanctuary city protesters, is what they're dubbing this man, was arrested for brandishing a gun. And what we have here is they're really inciting people. Now, we discussed this off air, saying we don't want violence. We don't want people on our side brandishing firearms, doing anything illegal, inciting violence. I agree with you there. But at the same time, this man was incited by these people. I mean, they were surrounding his car. They were threatening him. I don't want any violence. But I mean, what can you believe the response you're getting just from showing up?
Well, let me go back to that, Owen. In the situation we were in harm's way. There were people that were there that had actually. I saw one guy who was taking out a weapon out of his own shirt, and I saw it. I told the police, the sheriff's department. I said, "Look, he has a gun. I'm telling you, he has a gun." And they did nothing. They're unacceptable. They did nothing about it. They just stood by. They stood down. They didn't care about anybody that was there. They only cared about the other side. I even saw pictures online of some
that's what it looked
taking
like.
hands with the other side. This was an operation. This was an inside job. These guys were in cahoots together. They were in cahoots to make sure that our side was not being heard, that we were being censored. We have to stop this, and we have to stop this today.
Yeah, it was crazy, too, to see the police then. They were all brandishing their firearms, pointing their guns everywhere. You can see in the pictures on the LAist.com photos, anti-sanctuary city protester arrested for brandishing gun. And there's a video you can see his car gets surrounded with people. He pulls his gun out, and he's like, get out of the way. And then, like, a dozen police officers rush to the scene. They're pointing their guns at everyone, pointing their guns everywhere. The whole thing gets out of control. And that's what you're trying to stop, Omar. See, that's the overarching picture. This is lawlessness, okay? This is a society that has lost its values, lost its laws, and not put its citizens first. And it's descended into chaos. I mean, can you believe, and this is why you get support, Omar. I mean, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the support you're getting, because there were actually people chanting, Omar, Omar. I mean, how did that feel to you?
Yeah, that's amazing that a lot of people are supporting me. I'm showing up, and I had conversations with great people that lived in the community of Cudahy. And, whether I disagree with them or they agree with me, we still had some conversations. And that's what the dialogue has to be. We have to open up those conversations. And I opened the door for them to reach out to me and to talk to me and have that conversation. That's what we have to do. If we really want to change the state of California, change the 43rd Congressional District, change every city that's here, we have to do something. If we're not doing anything about it, we're not being proactive, we're just going to let this whole state fall apart and have all these liberals tear it apart. I mean, the majority of Democrats are in charge of the state. They have destroyed the state of California. Business has fled. We have to make sure that we're encouraging business to come here. We have to make sure that we're fighting for jobs. And Democrats are not fighting for jobs. They're not fighting for business growth. They're fighting against it. And that's what I'm telling people. And people are waking up.
Well, and this is why you're running against Maxine Waters, and this is why she won't debate you, because you just brought policy to the table. You just brought common sense to the table, and all she has to offer is impeach 45. That's all she has to offer. Russia this, Russia that, and impeach 45. What are you seeing right now in the district? Do you think that people in your district know who you are now enough to put you in office to replace Maxine Waters?
As more and more as I campaign, a lot more people are finding out with what I'm doing. I go around and some people walk by me and they recognize who I am. And for me, it's flattering. And it's an amazing thing to see that people are recognizing what I'm doing and all the work that I've been putting into the district. I see people that see my stuff on YouTube. I see people that see my stuff on Periscope, on Facebook. It's going viral. The information is out there. We just had a video from San Bernardino that hit over 1 million views. Not even CNN can hit those type of viewership. It's just amazing for me. It's amazing to see people are waking up. People are realizing things that are not so here in the state of California. People are tired of seeing gangbangers in parks. People are tired of seeing trash all over the place. People are tired of seeing people abuse the welfare system. People are tired of seeing the whole process being spit on. We have to start respecting the people that are in administration. We have to work with the current president. We have to get the job done. If we're not doing so, we're not going to get anywhere.
What are you seeing right now from Maxine Waters' people? I mean, they have to know that you're making an impact. They have to know right now that the big debate, I think, you know, they're on the Hill today talking about immigration law and the enforcement of it. All you're doing is saying you want to enforce the law. This is considered extreme rhetoric. It doesn't make any sense, but you are starting to win over the hearts and minds of people in your district, as you were just saying. I'm shocked. Really? You've had no response from Maxine's people? They haven't reached out to you? They haven't tried to do anything with you? Are they just completely running scared right now?
You know, we recently went to Maxine Waters' office. It was around 2 weeks ago. The video's on Facebook. And when we went over there, you know, I asked, I introduced myself. I went inside the office. I had a rally in front of her office. And I showed people that all the trash that was all over the place. I mean, even I don't even think Maxine Waters has even gone to her district office. She's never been there. She's never seen it. If she's seen it, she's going to see all this trash all over the place, and nothing has been cleaned up. You see couches all over the street. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible what you see there. You know, and when we went there, we said, you know, we filed the complaints as citizens in our community. We want to get the message out there. We also asked Maxine Waters to debate us formally. You know, they're not acknowledging what we're doing, but I know they know who I am. They're aware of who I am, and they know that they're going to have it in for them next year, because Maxine Waters is trying to divert people in the 43rd Congressional District. She's diverting them from the real issues. She's talking about impeaching, but she's not talking about the relevance of the issues in the district. People are starting to see that. People are saying, like, well, what's the message that she has? What's the message that I have? The message I have is for the district, for the people, for every American that is out there. I'm fighting for them, and I'm going to continue to fight for them.
Alex Jones here with a very important news update to anybody out there that wants to be prepared. But it goes beyond being prepared. Our bodies absolutely must have the good halogen iodine, or we will die. And you look at all of the thyroid problems and all the people that don't have energy and that have all sorts of hormone problems. And from my research, and a lot of just mainline research, it leads back to iodine over and over and over again. It's as important as vitamin C. If you don't get iodine, you die. But most people are just deficient, so they're low energy, they're sick. You got to have iodine in your body so that your body can produce the hormones you need. It is the base to so many things. And since I got into iodine 4 years ago, we've helped change the entire paradigm by developing and bringing to the public deep earth crystals from 7,000 to 12,000 feet of the purest iodine available. Other iodine comes from the ocean or from other byproducts of chemical facilities, and it's tainted. It's bound. It's not absorbable. I tried it. And I had incredible effects even with dirty iodine because the body needs it. When you don't have iodine, it absorbs the chlorine, the fluoride, and all these other bad halogens. Do yourself and your family a favor and check out the importance of iodine for yourself. I think you're going to be blown away. And whatever you do, support the broadcast and get a bottle of Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2. Also consult your physician, because if you've been deficient in it or have other issues, it can have some dramatic effects. As for me and most folks I talk to, it's been a game changer in the positive column, but still consult your physician, because iodine is no joke. It's a key building block of the body. And if you haven't had it for a long time and suddenly have it, some folks say they've experienced things like a detoxing effect and things like that. You've got to have vitamin C. You've got to have iodine to live. You've got to have water to live. Iodine is key. You must have it, but consult your physician first before you get powerful Survival Shield Nascent Iodine X2 at InfoWarsLife.com, or call toll free. We can answer your questions, 888-253-3139.
I'm Roger Stone for Infowars. I'm here to report on chilling new developments in the tech left's war on free speech, on a real, free, and open internet, and on the alternative voices featured here. The very same sources of fact you've come to rely on here at Infowars.com and at thestonecoldtruth.com. Facebook, in accordance with its diverse, concerted, and strategic plan to eliminate fake news, has rolled out its latest bag of tools designed to censor the information that arrives in its users' newsfeed. Retweaked algorithms will now filter out clickbait stories that Facebook has determined leave out or exaggerate details. Other storylines that Facebook finds objectionable will be tagged with a disputed warning label. And what about those links to web pages that Facebook has determined have little substance or contain disruptive, shocking, or malicious advertisements? How, you may ask, will the company ensure that its global community isn't discomfited by inconvenient facts, uncomfortable commentary, and alternative opinions? Those will either be removed entirely or segregated perpetually at the bottom of the news feed, with very little chance of exposure or that anyone will read them. You see, this is the tech left's idea of free speech. Yes, it's chilling. For some time, and with accelerated urgency since the election of Donald Trump, we've been warning here at Infowars about the pernicious campaign long employed by the moguls of Silicon Valley, Facebook, Twitter, Google, and YouTube, and their billionaire globalist mastermind, yes, the international criminal George Soros. It's been a relentless and well-financed effort to crush dissent, to kill the liberty movement, and to smother the Donald Trump presidency. But this war is by no means new. It's been going on since it became clear that harnessing the internet was essential to consolidating their political control and achieving even more power over the people. Of course, leftist elites and their corporate allies have understood the truth about the internet from the very beginning. Control the medium, and you will control the message. They've never lost sight of that objective. Ruthless, persistent, and ever strategic, and totally committed to their total victory, some of the world's most influential elites immediately went to work shaping internet policy to ensure that the political outcomes that they favor would be successful. And so, the tech left's creative use of online movement building, coupled with millions in liberal foundation dollars, and with the secret blessing of the bosses of Silicon Valley, ensured that they have largely dominated the online political dialogue during the Obama years. It was no accident then when in early 2015, President Obama passed and signed rules regulating the internet for the first time in American history. Leftist foundations were the primary financiers. George Soros and the Ford Foundation poured nearly $200 million into the coffers of the so-called open internet advocates. But they too were joined by the Silicon Valley monopolies like Google and Facebook, who recognized that regulation, as further leveraged of their own monopoly control of the internet, was crucial. Self-serving, symbiotic, and yes, strategic, they guaranteed to boost their already obscene wealth while advancing their godless, atheistic, globalist agenda. It helped, of course, that companies like Google owned the Obama White House, with Google officials visiting the Obama White House more than 425 times, visiting with more than 258 Obama administration officials and executives spinning through the Google-Obama revolving door during his 2 terms. And then came 2016 and the election of Donald Trump. Nothing before had ever exposed the left's open internet charade for the fraud that it really is. In the closing months of the election, Silicon Valley companies, prodded on by their leftist, activist, and liberal foundation allies, launched an all-out assault on Donald Trump and his supporters, banning Twitter users, censoring Facebook content, and even allegedly manipulating Google's search results and Google autocomplete to favor Hillary Clinton and malign Donald Trump. So Google and Facebook waded directly into the news process itself, declaring themselves as the arbiters of truth and rolling out their new fact-check features to debunk news stories that were critical of Hillary or that diverted from the official Google Soros globalist narrative. And then, despite a tsunami of opposition, not just the $2 billion, but Clinton campaign war machine funding beyond belief, they also had the tech left its corporate fellow travelers, and the mainstream media, as well as their deep state allies, all focused on defeating Donald Trump. With the manufactured Russian-Trump collusion narrative, a scandal for which there is no evidence and no truth, but most especially we see it in their campaign to fight fake news, which now can only be defined as anything that the tech left disagrees with, including, almost assuredly, this very broadcast. Although their openness has always been nothing more than a clever rhetorical head fake, there was a time when radical netroots progressives were careful to pay lip service to the so-called open internet as an essential tool for ensuring a free press and political transparency. The election results changed all of that. And so too did the onset of Trump derangement syndrome. This was apparent in the protests outside the FCC headquarters only weeks ago and over the previous weekend, on Mother's Day no less, when professional, radical, and often violent agitators from the left showed up outside Chairman Ajit Pai's family home to harass and intimidate him into stopping the process of repelling Obama's on a free and open internet. Turns out, even before the age of Trump, many of these tech left liberty crushers weren't always so careful to camouflage their true intentions. As Google Chairman Eric Schmidt once admitted, we're not arguing for censorship. We're arguing just to take it off the page, make it harder to find. You see, his aim, he once said, was to make computers wield the ability to detect malicious, misleading, and incorrect information, and essentially have you not see it. And Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg has claimed proudly to want to develop, quote, the social infrastructure for community. We need to evolve systems for collective decision-making. Collective decision-making. Isn't that the whole point of democracy? Matt Wood, founder of the Free Press, was quite blunt back in 2009 when he said that the group's goal was to move ahead towards a new kind of journalism, the result of which would be a marked shift to the political left. While the year before he opined that any serious effort to reform the media system would have to be necessarily part of a revolutionary program to overthrow the capitalist system itself. Doesn't sound like a Democrat to me, at least not a small d Democrat. It's a foundational principle of America that each one of us has a voice, that our God-given right, enshrined, preserved, and protected by the U.S. Constitution, cannot be taken away from us, except by the concerted efforts of the globalist tech left, who are fiercely determined to do exactly that. They want to kill the liberty movement, destroy the presidency of Donald Trump, and install another globalist in the White House. These forces arrayed against us care nothing about individual liberty, the free flow or exchange of ideas, diversity of opinion, or a free and open internet. They care nothing of media freedom. Just the opposite. They are terrified of them, but they are also engaged and ever vigilant. So we must also be. This is Roger Stone for Infowars.
Well, that's it for tonight's news. Thank you for joining us. Join us again tomorrow night at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for the Infowars Nightly News.
I am very proud to announce the introduction of the highest quality Infowars Biome Defense Probiotic. We wanted to come out with the largest spectrum of high quality known probiotics that have been proven to improve overall digestion and health and detoxification in the body. Biome Defense is an exclusive blend of 50 billion live and active cultures from over 23 different probiotic strains that are known to support digestion and intestinal function. Our researchers are confident that we have been able to develop what will be the leading probiotic on the market. Secure your Biome Defense in ultra strength or regular strength at InfoWarsLife.com today and get started supporting your digestive system naturally. We've been testing this formula for years, but this is the limited first run to the public, so please take advantage of it today. Support your own health and support the InfoWar.